Hello, hello. This is Allie Decker, and you're listening to the Long Game Podcast. Today I talked to Krista Doyle. Krista and I met on Twitter quite a few years ago and stayed in touch. She is a pop culture writer, personal essayist, and published author turned SEO manager and content strategist. She's based in Austin and currently doing SEO strategy at Jasper, which is one of our clients here at Omniscient. In this episode, Krista and I talk about the supposed death of Twitter, which is where she was before joining Jasper. We discuss in length the rise and merit of AI as a content writing partner, not a human writing replacement. And we also dig into Taylor Swift, Dax Shepard's armchair expert, and a lot of pop culture in general. She's very educated and very opinionated. She's also very fun. So I think you all will like this episode. So without further ado, here's Krista and the Long Game Podcast. Hey, Krista.
Hey, Allie.
Thanks for joining me today.
Of course. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you on. I'd love to start by just getting an intro from you, telling our listeners who you are, how you identify in terms of your job. I know your bio had a lot of labels. I've never heard you call yourself before a pop culture writer, a personal essayist. So I'd love to hear more about kind of who you are.
Yeah. So I am a writer turned SEO. So I got my start in pop culture writing for different websites and, writing personal essays and then transitioned into content marketing, which led me ultimately to SEO. And so I currently am at Jasper, the AI content platform, helping run their SEO efforts.
Yeah, I definitely want to talk more about AI and all of that.
Yeah.
But first, tell me a little bit more about your essay work and pop culture writing. I don't know if I knew that you did that.
Yeah. So it feels like it was several lifetimes ago at this point. But so after college, I actually was in LA for a while, doing the entertainment industry thing. And I worked at a bunch of different production companies. But, while I was at those jobs, I freelance wrote for Thought Catalog and Hello Giggles, just kind of pop culture entertainment websites. And it was mostly, think pieces, personal essays, listicles, that kind of stuff. And then almost 10 years ago now, I actually published a book of personal essays through Thought Catalog, which was really cool.
I was a big Thought Catalog fan in college.
Who wasn't, right?
So cool. What was that process like?
The book writing, it was really fun and chill. I think they're not like an actual, normal book publisher, so it was way more chill. But we just kind of repurposed some of the stuff I'd written for them, and I wrote a few different other essays, and it was all kind of themed around coming out after being, growing up in a very religious Southern environment. So yeah, it was fun and very weird to look back on now since I was so much younger.
I love stories of people who ended up in SaaS or B2B writing or growth, and they come from nothing. Well, I guess writing is connected to that, but it was a whole type of writing, whole different type of content.
So different. Yeah.
Do you ever recall anything that you learned or used back then?
I think I definitely because obviously when you're writing, personal essays, it's all about authenticity and trying to connect with your reader. Nothing about it is optimized or trying to sell something. So I think, as I've transitioned into a different type of writing, I try to keep that type of authenticity in stuff that I've written for, marketing or, B2B stuff.
Yeah. I feel like that's probably a better introduction to content marketing than the opposite, because I started as a freelance writer. And so now that when I write, even my morning pages, journaling, I'm H2s, H3s. I don't need to worry about this right now.
Same though. It's so once you get into that, you know, B2B, like well structured type of content, it's hard not to pull that through into everything.
I know. So you were in LA. What was next?
I did LA for 5 years and then decided I wanted something a little more stable and a little bit closer to home, which is Louisiana. So I decided on Austin. This was 2015, 2016. So the tech industry had been, you know, growing and buzzing for a bit, but it was just kind of on that cusp of real hyper growth. So I decided to try out tech and content marketing because I felt like, you know, this will still allow me to be creative and use my writing skills while also I'll have health insurance and a 401k and a little bit more of a path. So I ended up in Austin.
Where did you start in tech?
I started at an e-learning startup here called Aceable. And I actually started as like a online course writer. So I wrote a bunch of their online courses and a bunch of, you know, video scripts for the video portions of our courses. But then it was at Aceable that I ended up transitioning into content marketing specifically.
And then where did Outdoorsy come into play?
Outdoorsy. So I was at Aceable for about 3 years, and then I decided to freelance for a while. So I left and freelanced. And then after a year or so, I was like, man, I really miss being part of a team. What might I be interested in doing next? And I had followed Outdoorsy for a while because I really wanted to have them as a client, as a freelance client. But yeah, it just kind of worked out. I saw that they had a job available and kind of got hooked up with an intro there. And yeah, just ended up going back to the full-time life.
I feel like that's where we first met, or we were connected. Twitter is just this like connector of humans, and you're just like friends with somebody. But remember when I was interviewing with Megan, which ironically now you're working with her?
I know, it's such a weird world because I think we had we talked on Zoom, right?
Yeah.
We were trying to talk about you getting maybe into the travel space.
Yeah.
That was weird. What a crazy small world that is.
So I love learning people's stories. So forgive me if I'm just drilling you. I know that you were at Twitter for a while, which is quite the hot topic.
Yeah.
What was it like? And how long were you there again?
So I was there for just under a year, about 10 months. I ended up there in a crazy way as well. After I left Outdoorsy, I went to this super, super new small startup called Nearby. They were kind of like a local focused Amazon almost, or that's what we were trying to build. But they actually got bought out by Twitter about 5 months after I joined. And it was really exciting. I was not expecting that, but I mean, Twitter has played such a huge role. Like you said, it just connects people and brings different opportunities. And so I was super stoked. But it was very different than I thought it was going to be. Obviously, I joined November of 2021, and pretty much the day after I signed my offer letter, that's when Jack left, and then it just was it just was crazy. It was off to the races as soon as I started. But man, it was such a cool experience to be at a brand that I just had such a connection to and such an affinity for. I met some really amazing people on my team. Just some of the smartest, just most enthusiastic people that you'd ever meet. So, it was pretty volatile with all the, the news cycles going on about, all the Elon stuff. And then I ended up leaving for Jasper a month before all the layoffs. So it's definitely a wild year, but
it has been
an interesting experience that is to have.
It has been a wild year. So what do you think about everyone saying that Twitter's dying?
I'm not usually a fan of the like blank is dying narratives because it hardly ever is actually true. I think that it will probably change a lot. And I'm a little sad that I don't think it'll have the same vibes that it always has. So I don't think it's going to die by any means, but I do think it will probably be really different and TBD on how different.
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't really been pulling back on my activity of sorts, but I've definitely been watching, just seeing like you said, how the vibes change, how the algorithm's been changing. Did you see that they're extending the character limit?
Yes, to 4,000 characters, I think.
They're like thread bros.
Oh boy.
So sad.
So sad. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that goes. I feel like in the past, when there's been massive changes like that to a social media platform that I use, I'm always like so resistant and like, this is ridiculous. I'm never going to use this. And then like a week later, you're going to see me writing 4,000 character think pieces about AI or whatever.
Okay. I'm glad that you said that because I want to spend a lot of time talking about this. So you moved to Jasper, which is so cool because we get to work together now.
I know.
How do you feel about being there, your job, the product? There's so many cool things happening. Like, what's your favorite part so far?
Man, okay. I feel overall, I feel so lucky to be at this company at the time that I'm here. I've only been here for 2.5 months. So, but even in those 2.5 months, like things have changed and accelerated so much in this space. So I'm just so excited about like being at a place that's on the cusp of this kind of change in our industry. I think this is gonna, Jasper and potentially other platforms like it, like it's gonna change the way we work, the way we do business, and potentially the way we do anything. So I'm really excited to see kind of the direction that things go.
So tell me about those changes. What do you anticipate?
Yeah. So up until now, it's been, I feel like the major audience of Jasper or the users, they are like single users or freelancers or people on, very small teams, a lot of early adopters. But I think, in the coming year, I think it's going to shift a lot more toward there's going to be wider spread adoption on, enterprise teams and like people using it throughout their entire company, not just for marketing. I think the use cases are going to continue to develop for sales, customer service, legal. I think we're going to start to see it in other industries like real estate, healthcare. I just think that it's going to become a lot more widespread and mainstream in the next couple of years. And that a lot of this fodder around, AI versus humans or like kind of the skepticism around it, I think a lot of that is going to fall off in the next year.
So you're saying it's not as much AI versus humans, it's more how humans can take advantage of AI and like more of a collaborative benefit.
100%. Yeah.
So how can folks that are used to doing a lot of writing from scratch, so marketers or writers, how do they make the most of that tool?
Yeah. So I guess I will maybe talk about how I use it at Jasper and like maybe that'll kind of help some people. But so basically we just released a feature called workflows, and basically what it is, it kind of strings together some of our content templates. Like the one I use the most is called the blog post workflow. And so you kind of start and fill out, what you want the blog post to be about, and it'll take you through creating an outline, creating a, opening paragraph, and just basically throughout the entire creation process. And I use that to get to like a really good rough draft. For example, like last week, I ended up creating a first draft of like a 3,000 word article in like 25 minutes, which is insane. Normally that would take me several hours. And I think that where the confusion kind of sets in is some people think that means you can just stop there and publish it as is, but really it's like you can use that to save yourself 5 hours and then focus all of those extra hours and all that extra mental energy on now adding in like custom graphics, subject matter expert quotes. So I feel like right now for content people, that is my favorite use case. And then as an SEO, I use our meta description template religiously to help kind of bang out a bunch of meta descriptions really quickly. And then I know a lot of people on our team use it for like social media copy. So yeah, there's a bunch of different ways to use it. And I know that like as a content person, it's really important to be able to like not only quickly create good content, but also how can we repurpose it? And tools like this really help you do that.
Yeah, admittedly, I was pretty resistant in the beginning, like early this year, when folks were talking about how it would become more like we would use it as a central tool for content teams, content agencies, writers, all of that stuff. But as I started using Jasper, it's fascinating. Like the templates alone, having that kind of like pointed application of it, like the one-shot blog posts I've used before, like in the meta description. And I see it in a couple ways. Like there's a couple positioning phrases that either Austin has shared with me or Alex Burkett and I have talked about. One, huge for writer's block. So like it doesn't do writing for you, but if you are just stuck and you can't like get past that writer's block or you can't figure out how to say something. Two, it gives you something to argue against, which is kind of cool because if anything, it'll like write a couple of paragraphs and you're like, I don't actually agree with this based on my experience. And then you have like kind of a starting point, like you have this canvas to work with. And three, this was something that Austin shared with me when we were doing some of our audience development. He said that a lot of customers help he said it helps the loneliness of entrepreneurship, which I thought was really cool because like you think about solo real estate people, solo entrepreneurs, like even like affiliate marketers, writers, a lot of the folks that use Jasper, I mean, they're doing so much by themselves. It's kind of cool. They have like a AI partner.
I know. It's definitely one of my favorite parts to hear our customers kind of talk like that. And I think the other day, somebody said that they refer to Jasper as their first employee, their first hire. And that just sounds so cool. So yeah, I definitely agree.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I was also thinking about, tools like Grammarly, not exactly the same thing, but it doesn't do all the work for you. It just helps you make it better,
Yeah,
totally. Some purists could argue like, oh, you need to line edit by yourself. And it's like,
right, exactly.
No,
that's exactly it. It's like Grammarly doesn't make you any less of a writer. It doesn't make you any less needed. And then it's like the same with like how ClickUp, just because you have ClickUp doesn't mean you don't need a project manager, like it just kind of helps you, make your work better.
It's also going to be such a good forcing function for quality. And this whole notion of adding something new to the conversation. I also heard this phrase called churnalism, which is just churning out content.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh gosh, I don't know how that word makes me feel weird. It's like the word moist or something.
I know.
But it was all about like, you have to add something new to the conversation. So like, yes, if you just run that first draft, like you said, that standalone draft probably won't compete well or perform well. But if you then use it and you use that extra time you get back to add something unique to the post, quotes, images, graphics, all that stuff, then it just becomes part of the equation.
Yeah, for sure. And to me, it makes writing more fun because man, I freaking hate getting to that first draft. Like it's like pulling teeth sometimes. And so if you can just start from there, a lot easier and a lot faster, the rest of it is what's fun to do. So, I'm super excited about it.
So what other applications have you or the team discovered or interesting ways of using it?
Yeah. Well, one of my favorite examples is we actually had a little 7-year-old boy work with his mom to write a children's book using Jasper. So, yeah, so his mom basically wanted to help him understand what it would be like to create and sell a product and kind of start a mini business. And so they chose a children's book. So they wrote the text with the help of Jasper, and then they used Jasper art to actually create all the images for the book. And then, yeah, she helped him like get it on Amazon and stuff. Yeah, it's super fun. So there's people use it for all sorts of things, just, not just marketing. Yeah, that's probably one of my favorites.
What are some of the biggest arguments against AI that you or the team have heard? Not that you'd agree with them, but.
Yeah, no, I mean, the argument that I hear the most, I think, on Twitter and LinkedIn from like our marketing writing community would be kind of that same like journalism thing that you just described. I think people are scared that there are going to be people who are just kind of churning out rough first draft AI content without any thought, without any editing or care about whether it's actually good or not, which some people might. And I think that, it's on companies like us to kind of help people understand why that's not the best way to use Jasper or AI in general. But I think people are scared of that. And I think people are scared that that means they're going to be less valuable as writers, or that companies are going to choose this like journalism style over, human writers. And I personally don't think that's true, but I can see if you are an outsider or new to this space that why you might be scared of that.
So what would you say to companies that are tempted to go down that path? Just using AI, just doing the bare minimum?
Yeah, I mean, as an SEO, I've dabbled in the affiliate world, and I know that a lot of affiliate sites may be tempted to use it in that way, just to get a lot of content on their site really quickly. But I would say that Google is not going to be a fan of that, and not because it's AI content, but because it's just not good. Yeah. And I think that as we see more stuff roll out, like the helpful content update, algorithm change, I just think content that is bad or thin and thoughtless will continue to be penalized. So whether you're using AI or human writers to churn stuff out like that, that's not going to be in your best interest.
Yeah, churning could definitely apply to human production as well.
Yeah, for sure.
For machines. Have you used Jasper for any like personal projects or anything you're doing outside of Jasper business?
Yeah, that's actually how I kind of came to Jasper. This summer I started a personal blog about AI content, and kind of with the goal of helping marketers understand how they could use it and like why it's not scary and bad. And so I did use Jasper for like my homepage copy, and to help me write a lot of the content, and just played around with it a lot. And that's kind of how I don't know, I just kind of fell in love with it as a product and decided I wanted to try to go in-house with it.
That's awesome. So do you still do the blog?
I don't. After I joined in-house, it kind of felt weird, or I don't know. So I just kind of shut it down. But yeah, it was fun. It was fun to do and helped me learn the product. Learn the product really fast.
That's awesome. I didn't know that. Is it still live?
It is not live. I figured that. Yeah. RIP.
AI blog. So tell me about your other personal projects that you've been working on or that you have worked on before.
So I enjoy the process of building niche websites, some of which have been affiliate, some of which have not. But so I like to do that in my spare time. I also love podcasting. I've been doing that for almost 10 years, which is crazy.
Is this the Taylor Swift podcast?
So I've done the Taylor Swift podcast for about 6 years. We actually just stopped, probably for good. And then before that, I had a podcast about the TV show Friends for a couple years.
Oh my gosh. No wonder you're a pop culture expert. It's going to feel weird, like end of an era kind of vibes.
Yeah, it is very weird because we started the Taylor Swift podcast a year that I moved to Austin. And so, there's been so many things that have happened during that time. Like I met and married my wife. We've all kind of seen all these career changes for each other and all these life changes. So it's a little bittersweet. Yeah.
That's kind of cool though. I love when folks have like side projects and things. Does that make you feel more confident in your day-to-day work? Does it help at all professionally?
That's a good question. I
more of a reprieve.
I will say yes, it's helpful in the sense that podcasting has been a nice outlet for me because I'm not super extroverted. I am a little shy when you first meet me. And so I feel like podcasting has been a good outlet because it just is so helpful to be able to talk about something that you're interested in and kind of practice interviewing people and talking to guests and just having a way to kind of let your personality show, since maybe in person it's a little harder to do that. So I feel like it's been a good outlet for me to do that. Yeah.
It's like learning new skills through the context of something that doesn't feel like work.
Yeah, exactly. And there's just no pressure. Who cares what I think about Taylor Swift? It's a good way to practice that stuff.
Except you love Taylor Swift, right? And today is her birthday.
It is the Queen's birthday.
Have you always been a fan?
I've always liked her, but I will say that doing the podcast kind of added a new layer and made me a bigger fan. Just kind of talking about her writing process and all of the business angles of her career. She's just such an interesting person, in addition to her music. So yeah, I definitely feel like it made me a bigger fan to do the podcast.
What's the biggest surprise you learned about her when podcasting or researching?
The biggest surprise, before the podcast, I had no idea just how calculated she was about her career. That sounds like a bad word, but I don't mean it in a bad way. But she just is very smart and she has planned out her career, years and years in advance. And I just think that's so fascinating to not only kind of have the vision for what you want, but then also the patience to execute and see that through. It's just very fascinating.
My husband is a big fan, or used to be, I guess.
Oh, no.
He tells me this story. So we're pretty big country music fans, and he's from Indiana, and I think it was the Indiana State Fair or something that he went to when he was a kid. And she opened for Kenny Chesney, and this was big curly hair. I think she won Teardrops on My Guitar, and everyone was throwing stuff at her to get off the stage.
Oh my God.
And now it's Kenny Chesney would be lucky to open for Taylor Swift. So it's it's an interesting progression of her career and all the crap she's been through. But
yeah. I still always think about when I was in college, and it was definitely during that curly hair phase when she had just come out. I went to see Rascal Flatts, and she was the opener. And she was just kind of after the show hanging out in the hall and meeting people. And I definitely was let's just go. I don't care about this kid. I somehow need a picture with this like little teen, which is very funny looking back on.
That's funny. Yeah, I also, I haven't watched the documentary, but Austin, my husband has, and all of, like, the extra junk that she went through that probably wasn't necessary in her career, but she stayed strong. And I don't know a lot of the details, but just like the resilience there. Because everyone thinks like famous people, easy life, lots of money, like all that stuff. Not that they don't have their own trials and tribulations, but I don't know.
Yeah.
So much.
No, yeah. You could not pay me to be famous. I don't think. It seems pretty terrible. And yeah, that was kind of another fascinating thing about her is just, I don't know. She's very polarizing, and there's just constantly people either hate her or love her, and it changes every second. So yeah, she's wild.
What other podcasts do you listen to?
I'm a huge Armchair Expert fan. It's Dax Shepard and Monica Padman. They do 2 episodes a week. So every Monday it's like a celebrity, an actor, kind of like a fun interview about that person. But then every Thursday they do an expert of some kind. So it's usually like a doctor or professor or scientist. So then you get to like actually learn a little bit, and it's a little bit more meaty. But yeah, it's an interesting podcast. I feel like I've listened to it every week since it started in 2018. I'm kind of obsessed.
Really? Did you ever see Parenthood?
Yo, yeah. So good.
Yeah, that's like the first time I saw him in something. Like I didn't know who he was before that. Besides being like Kristen Bell's husband, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Add on to me.
Yeah, Mr. Kristen Bell. Yeah, no, Parenthood is A+.
That's so funny. Yeah, my brother loves Armchair Expert, and I just haven't gotten around to listening to it. But
it's so good. Oh, it's so good. You gotta listen.
If you had to recommend one episode, what would you recommend to listen to?
Oh man. So okay, I really love all the Thursday episodes, which are the experts. I would recommend any of their Adam Grant episodes. They've had him on a couple times, as well as I think they've also had Andrew Huberman on a couple times. So I would maybe start with a couple of those. Those are super interesting. And they also just interviewed Posh Spice, Victoria Beckham. And I was a big fan of that episode as well.
Okay. Yes, I will listen. I have like some speed round questions for you.
Oh boy. Okay.
Ready? I'm going to touch back on the AI thing for a second. What's one thing that you believe about AI that most people would disagree with you about? Maybe something you didn't mention earlier.
Something I didn't mention earlier. I think I would just say that it's really not here to replace any human jobs. I can't remember if I touched on that earlier or not, but I think that is something I believe and have believed since I started digging into it. Yeah, I don't think it's here to try to chase any of us away.
I love that you had your own publication before you started at Jasper. Like, I feel like that gives, not that working at Jasper doesn't give you credibility, but like you're obviously employed, and then you had something independent, and you had something that was like very legit. So how did you find Jasper? Did they find you?
No. So it was through writing that blog. I was kind of trying and using all the tools out there. So, Jasper and all of its competitors, and they just stood out to me as the better product.
Yeah.
I think my biggest thing was, we don't have any of this figured out right now, but I do think this is the company and this is the product that is going to continually adapt and figure it out as we go. And so that really drew me to Jasper as the product. And then I found the job as I was using it, and applied and talked to everybody, and they were all amazing. And yeah, that's how I ended up.
I love that so much. Yeah. Okay, next question. When was the last time you changed your mind and why?
Oh man. The last time I changed my mind and why? Does this have to be about work?
No, it can be anything.
No. Okay. The last time I changed my mind and why was last night. Last night I made a deal with my wife that I would I made a deal with my wife that I would try a grief group since I lost my dad earlier this year. And man, I really didn't want to go and I wasn't going to go, but I decided that, I made a deal, had to keep my word. And then at the last minute, I changed my mind and decided to go.
Did you like it?
It was okay. It was,
like you tried it.
Yeah. We'll see how it goes.
Dang. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. I hope it goes smoothly. I don't think I would be a fan of that either. I'm a very private griever.
Yeah, I am too, I think. It was, it added a definitely a different kind of vibe to the situation.
Yeah. Well, good for you. I find that most people that we interview don't like this question because all of us are very kind of stubborn or decisive and stuck in our ways. So I like to throw it there because most people are like, oh, I never change my mind.
Yeah.
No.
I change my mind all the time, unfortunately.
Well, that's good. So what do you consider your greatest achievement? And this doesn't have to be work related either.
Greatest achievement.
It can.
I think I would say making the move from entertainment to tech. I think because not only was that the biggest, best decision for my career, but I just think it led to so many other things outside of work. I met so many friends through making that change, and I met, my wife and found an amazing city that I love. And so I think making that switch, I would say that's my biggest achievement, just because that one switch completely changed my life and helped me, I think, feel a little bit more in my skin.
That's awesome. I love those hindsight 2020 stories, being able to loop back and see what led to what. And at the time, it probably was difficult and uncomfortable and maybe uncertain, but I feel like the older, this is probably where old people's wisdom comes from. The older you're able to look back.
Right. I know.
Yes.
I know. It's so fun to do that too.
Yeah. I have those turning points too. I think this question I really wanted to ask you because I know, given your background and then now as an SEO and working on AI stuff, would you consider yourself more artistic or scientific? And I don't mean science in terms of literal science, but more I don't even know real science things.
Right.
More maybe formulaic or logical versus creative. Maybe that's a better way to ask it.
I think, this has probably changed a lot actually over the years, but I definitely think now I'm a little bit more on the scientific end of the spectrum. Yeah. I like that I came from a more creative background because that helps inform a lot of things when it comes to being a little more scientific, but definitely on that end of the spectrum now, which is crazy to say.
That's so cool. Yeah, when I was reading some of your background, I was like, I'm not sure what she's going to say. I feel like it's truly it could go either way. Also, on the record, I was going to say periodic table, but then I accidentally in my head said chemical table. So clearly I am not scientific.
I would have been like, oh yeah, the chemical
one
table,
with all
sure.
the squares.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Which of your beliefs are you most likely wrong about? Again, whole world, work, not work, whatever.
Oh man, these are such fun questions. Which of my beliefs am I most likely wrong about? I'm gonna say that. Oh God, this is so hard. Okay. I'm gonna say a belief that I have that some people probably think I'm wrong about. TBD if I am. I think that my belief is we think about content quality in the wrong way. I think that when it comes to like content marketing and SEO, I think we overthink it a little bit. And I don't feel like a lot of people would agree with me, but that is kind of a belief that I've come to develop.
Overthink in what way?
I think we overthink what quality means, or I think we maybe overthink what our users might need out of our content. Or maybe just that there even is like an overarching definition of like what high quality content means. I think, if I'm as a user looking for a how-to guide or like what's the best XYZ, I'm not really looking for like a 5,000 word literary masterpiece. And I think that sometimes we kind of think that that's what's needed out of everything. So yeah.
Yeah. Quality is very subjective. I think you can see bad quality
for sure,
but good quality is not a single definition.
Yes, exactly.
But, at the agency, we always define that with our clients because the answers are always different. Obviously good spelling, good grammar, that's baked into everything.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, as a former pillar page writer at HubSpot, 10,000 words all the time.
Oh man, yeah, that's wild.
But I would still write long form over short form. It's hard to go short once you've written like that long of those long of pieces. But
agree. Yeah, it's hard to turn that off. And I think used to that probably was the definition of high quality. But yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Interesting. All right. Last one. How did you prepare for our chat today?
I listened to a few of your past episodes that you specifically hosted because I wanted to get a sense of what the vibe would be and what you might ask. And then, I just kind of tried to brush up on what I might say when you ask about AI stuff. It's like, there's a lot to take in when it comes to that. So
yeah, it is ever changing. I feel like you and Megan and Austin are such a power team because you stay on top of stuff. Like I bet things change every day for y'all in terms of the industry.
It's been pretty wild. And I feel really lucky to be working with people who are that way. Like they are so plugged into what's happening and how not only the industry is changing every day, but like, where's our product headed? And it's exciting to be around people like that all day.
How do you recommend, or, from you all or just in general, how do you recommend staying up to date on those kind of trend changes for AI?
For me, Twitter's been huge, as it usually is for stuff like this, but there's a lot of really great people who are building things in this space. And, I've been following Ryan Law from Animals. He has been writing content about this for a couple years now. So I would just recommend like finding the people who are talking about this stuff and following them. That's just the easiest way to do it because it changes so much. And then, like stay tuned to Jasper because we're probably going to be, pumping out a lot more of that industry update kind of stuff soon.
Yeah, it's on the roadmap.
Yeah.
All right. To close, I'd love for you to share how folks can find you, learn more about you, follow you.
You can follow me on Twitter at Krista K. Doyle. I usually talk about AI or SEO or whatever HBO show I'm currently obsessed with. And then, just follow along at Jasper. Jasper AI is our site. And you can follow us at Twitter at Hey Jasper AI.
Cool. Thank you, Krista.
Yeah, thanks.